Hello and welcome to History in Bits. We've already made some videos about the Holy Roman Empire and its depiction in Crusader Kings 3, and in the last, we primarily talked about the lands of the Kievan Rus. So today, I shall discuss the neighbouring lands of those realms, specifically the two independent kingdoms of Poland and Hungary. They both share an exciting starting position in the game, as well as a fascinating historical background. We will talk about the two ancient East Central European kingdoms, their relationship to each other, their history, as well as the characters and dynasties within them. If you are interested in seeing more content like this, please consider liking and subscribing to please the almighty algorithm. It really helps us out a lot. And if you are in a position to do so, check out our Patreon, link in description. If you watched our last video, I had quite a long intro, but one thing I didn't do is to apologise in advance for my Anglican pronunciation of many of the names of people and places. There were a few comments pointing out my butchery of Eastern European and Russian words, and to be fair, rightly so. Some viewers might recall in our earlier videos that I tend to excuse myself for the pronunciation every time in the intro. I stopped saying that only to save from repeating myself in every single video not based in England. So please recognise that I'm aware I'm not a world-class linguist. That being said, quick shout out to one of our Discord members, Kamil Shadkowski, for helping me out with some of the Polish pronunciations in this video. Anyways, let's dive into medieval Hungary and Poland's depiction in Crusader Kings 3. The relationship between Hungary and Poland goes back a long time, far predating Visegrad, or a shared oppressor during the Cold War. In fact, even though they shared a border for almost 800 years prior to Poland's first partition in 1772, they never developed a long-term rivalry. Instead, their ruling families during the Middle Ages, the Piast dynasty in Poland and the House of Arpad in Hungary, intermarried regularly. These family ties, as well as the constant danger of larger enemies looming both to the east and to the west, appeared to keep the two kingdoms together. 2 times, the kingdoms were even governed by one king in a personal union, first in the 1370s and 80s under Louis the Great, and then again in the 1440s under Władysław III of Poland. Even much later, in the tense interwar period in the 1920s and 30s, when the two new nation-states found themselves on different sides in the fight between revisionist versus non-revisionist powers in the region, as Poland was favoured by the post-World War I Paris peace treaties and Hungary severely punished, they remained on okay terms. This enduring friendship can be explained firstly by the sheer length of the two countries' relationship, both being very ancient independent kingdoms, and secondly, by their shared Catholic tradition. Whilst the former did not matter at the very start of their existence as nation-states, the latter very much did, undoubtedly even more so than today. The reason why Christianity was significant enough to bring these two independent kingdoms together is not only because of its pious population. Rather, historians have identified a clear connection between the formation of policies and Christianization in Hungary and Poland. Writing about the first papally confirmed Hungarian king, Stephen I, or István I of Hungary, historian Nora Berend points out that István's coronation as king was both a culmination and a symbol of his success in the undertaking. The coronation did not so much confer power on him as demonstrate both internally and externally that he had reached the apogee of power, which at the time was conceived of as kingship. His father, Géza, was already called king in recognition of his real power in some contemporary sources, although he was never crowned. Similarly, István's power was acknowledged rather than created by the coronation. Controversy surrounds the details of his coronation, in conjunction with the elevation of the Polish ruler and the creation of the independent Hungarian and Polish archbishoprics of Esztergom and Gniezno. In any case, it seems like Christianity allowed Polish and Hungarian leaders alike to play in the big boy club of medieval European politics, elevating them to the rank of kings, while at the same time letting them remain independent realms. We can also see that Poland and Hungary were elevated to a higher rank both in the worldly and the spiritual domain at a roughly similar time. The first king of Hungary was István, who we just heard about, being coronated in the year 1000 AD, and the first king of Poland was Bolesław the Brave, who was coronated in 1025. Furthermore, the first proper Christian ruler of Hungary was also István, whose father Géza was already baptized but remained a half-pagan according to historians. It was a very similar story in Poland, where it was also the first king Bolesław's father, Mieszko, who was the first to be officially baptized, and then Bolesław was elevated to the rank of king. So while these two kingdoms have a different cultural background, their situations in the 11th century were strikingly similar, and therefore they were in close contact and strongly influenced each other. I'll now assess how accurately Paradox portrayed the two kingdoms individually, going over several important characters within them. Not only did aforementioned Discord member Kamil Szadkowski help me with pronunciation, but he also helped us research this part of the video, so thanks again for your help. The Kingdom of Poland in the game lies wedged between the Holy Roman Empire in the west, the Kingdom of Hungary in the south, the Kingdom of Ruthenia in the east, and the smaller duchy tier realms of Pomerania and Prussia in the north. The de facto borders Paradox gave to the kingdom are exactly the same as its de jure borders, which likely reflects the fact that this is a very young kingdom at the start of the game. It consists of the duchies of Mazovia, Kuyavia, Upper and Lower Silesia, and Lesser and Greater Poland. It is difficult to verify this feudal organisation, but the duchy names do somewhat reflect the names of the 5 principalities the land was split up into, about 80 years after Bolesław III's death in 1138, so the duchies seem fair enough. The capital of the kingdom in CK3 is Kraków, which is historically informed as well. The story behind this is that the 1030s pagan reaction to the recent Christianization of Poland forced Casimir the Restorer to transfer the capital to Kraków in 1038. The one thing that is likely wrong is that Poland is portrayed as landlocked, when until the late 1060s Poland was still in control of the region of Pomerania, which in-game is shown as a duchy of Pomerania and contains the coastal city of Gdansk. To back up this claim, there are records of a Pomeranian army participating in an expedition of King Bolesław against Bohemia in the 1060s. King Bolesław II, the Bold of Poland, is accurately shown as the ruler of Poland in the game as well. If we're being very strict, his title is wrong, since although he was already the 3rd king of Poland, in 1066 he was not yet crowned as king, and therefore would have been referred to as Duke of Poland in the 1060s. Also, according to the Gesta Principum Polonorum, the oldest known chronicle documenting Polish history, his nickname was Largus, the generous, rather than Audax, the bold. Along with the Kingdom of Poland, his titles include the Duchy of Lesser Poland, with the capital county of Kraków, and additionally the counties of Cieszyn, Racibórz, and Bytom. In actual history, he probably inherited a larger domain from his father, also including Greater Poland, Mazovian, Pomerania, and parts of Silesia. He is a member of the Piast family, and his reign is usually looked upon favourably. Bolesław was a diplomat, which is somewhat underrepresented in the game. Bolesław generally continued his father's peaceful legacy by attempting to surround Poland with allied realms in order to hold its ground against the mighty Holy Roman Empire at its western border. His aim was to have only allies bordering Poland eventually. Bolesław II cooperated with the anti-imperial faction in Hungary, helping him increase Poland's political independence from the Holy Roman Empire. This, however, caused conflict with the neighbouring kingdom of Bohemia, which was part of that empire. Despite his reasonably successful reign, Bolesław had to flee Poland when a conflict with the Polish nobles in 1079 culminated into open revolt, and the king was deposed and banished. Bolesław was succeeded by his brother Władysław, who is his most powerful vassal in the game, and controls the Duchy of Kuyavia. For a lack of sources, we cannot say this for certain, but it is more likely that in reality his base was Mazovia, as Polish historians have pointed out his strong ties with the region. Władysław was originally not intended to rule Poland, as he was only the second son of Casimir. However, when his brother was deposed, he was pronounced Duke of Poland in 1079 and remained Duke, not King, of Poland until his death in 1102. It's unclear whether Władysław had an active role in the nobles' plot to depose Bolesław, or whether he was afterwards made Polish ruler simply because he was seen as the most legitimate candidate to replace his brother. Anyway, Władysław's reign was also rather peaceful, though he is remembered by history as a weak ruler, as he let his marshal de facto rule Poland during his reign. Władysław married Judith, the daughter of Rastislaus II of Bohemia, in 1080, with the aim to improve Poland's relations to neighbouring Bohemia. With his wife's relation to Imperial Bohemia, his later foreign policy was shaped by appeasement towards the empire, going so far as to accepting the overlordship of Emperor Henry IV, in spite of Poland remaining an independent realm. After a long reign, Władysław was eventually succeeded by his son Bolesław III Wrymouth, who also reigned for over 30 years. Another vassal within Poland, who seems to be somewhat legit, is Duke Wołosz of Upper Silesia. He is part of the Dunin noble family, whose earliest ancestor actually was a ruler in Silesia in the second half of the 11th century, and whose members were often advisors to the ruling Piast family. The precise historical model for this in-game character is probably Piotr Wołoszowicz, also known as Piotr Wołosz Dunin, whose seat of power was Wrocław, just like Duke Wołosz's capital county in-game. As we have pointed out before, the Kingdom of Hungary is in a similar position as the Kingdom of Poland in the game, geographically, diplomatically, and also in terms of its Christianization. But the earlier history of Hungary differs from that of Poland. While the Polish Slavs were rooted in the area of the medieval Kingdom of Poland for a longer time already by the 11th century, the Hungarians only settled down between 862 and 895 in the Carpathian Basin. As mentioned, the Christian Kingdom of Hungary was established in 1000 AD under King Stephen, who later even became a saint, and Hungary was for the following 3 centuries in the hands of the Arpad dynasty. Shortly after CK3's 1066 start, around the turn of the 12th century, the Arpad king Koloman also brought the neighbouring kingdom of Croatia under his rule, uniting the two kingdoms into a personal union after his predecessor Ladislaus had invaded Croatia in the 1090s. The current king of Hungary in-game, King Salomon, is the son of the former King Andrew and the Kievan princess Anastasia, who we covered in our last video on Ruthenia and Russia. Salomon's young age is portrayed correctly, as he was still quite young when his father died. His ascension as king was thus quite rocky, and when his uncle Bela took the Hungarian throne after his father's death, the Holy Roman Empire had to intervene to make him king, helping him and his mother Anastasia defeat their rivals. You can find both his father Andrew and his uncle Bela in the title history of the Kingdom of Hungary. Anyway, when he returned to Hungary with the backing of a German army led by Duke Otto of Bavaria, he was coronated, and in a grand ceremony his mother gifted the alleged sword of Attila the Hun to Duke Otto, while the young Salomon himself married Judith of Swabia, the sister of the Holy Roman Emperor Heinrich, who is in the game portrayed as Princess Jutta of the Holy Roman Empire, and portrayed there as betrothed rather than married to the 13-year-old Hungarian king. However, Salomon's rule continued to be unstable. His cousins, Geza, Laszlo and Lampert, the 3 sons of his defeated uncle Bela, had to be bought off to agree to a peace, which saw them receive 1/3 of the kingdom as a separate duchy. In the game, these 3 ambitious cousins are present, and they solved the territorial aspect of the aforementioned historic arrangement by making them dukes of Nitra, Ungvar, and Transylvania, immediately creating a troublesome potential faction against the Hungarian king in the game. Salomon initially worked together with his cousins to fight against Bohemia and the Cumans. However, the relationship between them deteriorated in the 1070s, and Géza, the oldest of his cousins, openly rebelled against the king. Géza won a decisive victory in 1074 and was the de facto ruler from then on, with Salomon only holding onto some counties in the very west of Hungary, officially abdicating in 1081. As Géza already died in 1077, his rule was quite short, and it was the second cousin, Laszlo, or Ladislas, who became the official king of Hungary afterwards. And after that came Koloman, who we mentioned earlier as the consolidator of the personal union with Croatia, bringing the neighbouring kingdom under Arpad rule as well. Koloman is already shown in the game as the 1-year-old son of Prince Géza, Kalman Arpad. So when playing in Hungary, the most interesting and relevant character to play as would probably be the 19-year-old Prince Laszlo, ruling over the Duchy of Transylvania. But almost all of the starting positions of this family drama promise an interesting, historically informed playthrough. Who is your favourite character to play as in this region? Any interesting historical anecdotes we might have missed? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video on medieval history of Hungary and Poland and their portrayal in Crusader Kings. Please consider liking and subscribing, or even supporting us via our Patreon. Speaking of which, a special thanks goes out to our Patreon supporters who you can see on screen now. Shout out to Dak in particular for supporting the channel.